Hello everybody, my name's Kanara Manika, and welcome back to the unboxing where we have returned to the Chainsaw Man mines once again. Yeah, there's another Chainsaw Man figure out, which means I've got to pick it up because I am a completionist for this line. But thankfully today is a character that I am particularly fond of, even if from what I've seen this figure doesn't necessarily seem worth its price. That's right, today we are taking a look at the S.H.Figuarts Chainsaw Man Reze from the film, aptly titled Chainsaw Man the Movie Reze Arc. Yes, this is the Chainsaw Man the Movie Reze Arc. Reze, one of two other figures that they're releasing for. Well, there's a total of three figures for the film. We've already looked at the film-specific version of Chainsaw Man previously on the channel. And of course, there is a Bomb Girl, who we will get to on the channel eventually. But for today, we are taking a look at Reze, which has had a bit of controversy given her high price tag, given what she is, and I can definitely feel it. This is a very light box, but I was going to pick it up just because I have the other Chainsaw Man figures, so of course I was going to get this one. It was kind of inevitable. But anyways, let's take a look at the box. As per usual, the box is styled very similar to the other Chainsaw Man figurarts, which is to say it's very, very good. We have a nice purple background for most of it, with these nice little pops of like pink and green paint splatters, with a nice promotional image of Reze right here. You also get the window, which has the Chainsaw Man Reze printed right there, which is also very nice. Figure and a look at the accessories. Bandai Namco logo, Tamashii sticker, Chainsaw Man the Movie Reze Arc, Tamashii Nations and Bandai, S.H.Figuarts, Reze, and all the copyright information. On the bottom, you get an image of Reze with her back to the camera, SHF Reze, as well as the Western release copyright sticker. On this side, you don't get a window, but you get an image of Reze sort of angling forward. Reze, SHF. On this side, you get Reze, SHF, a little paint splatter, and a little bit more of the window with the quote. On the top, you get the S.H.Figuarts logo, the Reze logo, the window, purple, and for some reason, Crunchyroll is still here. I don't know what the fuck they did to get here. But maybe that's why the prices are so expensive. And on the back, you have your usual slate of promotional images of Reze in a bunch of different poses from the film, pulling the pin out of her choker, her getting near murdered, her with Denji, the previously released Denji, which recently got a reprint for pre-order, so if you missed out on that, now wouldn't be the worst time to get it, given Reze is also out there, as well as different faceplates, purple, warnings. You're an adult if you're watching this, hopefully. And if you weren't, get the fuck out of here. Let's get the figure out of its package. Let's pull her out. Instructions are on the inner flap on that side. And here's the figure with everything that it comes with, which is not a lot. Opening it up. Oh, careful now. Whew. That thing went flying. Let's take a look at everything, starting off with the hands. Alongside the main pair, you get, this is kind of pitiful. You get one more pair, a double hand and a extra hand. Okay, let's go over it. Here we have the sort of splayed together hands, which does feel very Reze, to be fair. It's obviously two hands. You got the two portholes. You kind of gotta squeeze them in together at the same time. But yeah, they do look very nicely posed. Otherwise, they are very simple hands, though. There are at least two different molds that have essentially been glued together, I think. Which is nice, but it is a little simple. And of course, alongside that, you have the grenade pin pulling hand, which is a nice little expressive thing. The hand is hooked very nicely, which I do appreciate. You could probably also have her like pull on like Denji's ripcord with it as well, if you so choose for a pose. But otherwise, again, very simple, fairly small because of what the figure is. You also get this pair of hands, a pair of fists, which again look fairly nice. Very simple, though. Sorry I didn't spend too much time going over them. That's because the hands are very basic. They aren't bad, but they're just like hands. Next up, though, you do get, alongside the unpulled pin in her neck, you also get a pulled pin in her neck. It's hard to see on camera, but it is silver with a nice long peg, and is painted, I guess, but yeah, you're essentially going to pull this out, and then you loop the finger through, and then you get it. But there's also, honestly, thankfully, this is something I can compliment it on that I haven't seen mentioned in a lot of other places. You get a spare copy of each of the pins. So this is the one that dangles on her neck out of the box, and you get another copy of the one from just earlier, which, given how small the piece is very appreciated. I'm going to be honest, that's probably the nicest part of the set. And I guess to help you swap them out, you also get like a part spudger. It's just kind of a wedge of skin-colored plastic. I guess this helps you pull out the pin, since it is up in her neck, so yeah. Yeah, alongside that, you get an extra 3 faceplates. Starting off, we'll start with the bloody one, which looks nice and desperate. This can fit multiple scenarios. Obviously, it's primarily for the one scene during the middle fight scene where she gets, like, the virus devil or whatever. I forget its exact name. But right before she throws her head. But this could also work for a scene with a Makama, if you do have that figure. It's nice and bloody, and it feels very good. To be honest, Reze has some of the better faceplates in the S.H.F. Chainsaw Man line. I've found some of their human faceplates to be a little bit lacking throughout the line. It's been one of my more major, I guess, complaint points that I haven't been super fond of, so... And then alongside that, we have another serious face, her looking to the side and going, boom or whatever, because of, or bong, because she's about to transform, which again looks very nice and serious, and it probably looks even better with the bangs. And then, to fit for an earlier piece of the film, we have her smiling and blushing, which again looks very good. Again, these Reze faces are some of the better ones in the lineup, to be honest. They look a lot more like Fujimoto's artwork than the other faces, which I appreciate at least. That's all the accessories, which you might be surprised for a figure that costs $80. Yeah, she is very light on accessories, unfortunately. I do feel like there's more she could have come with. She could have come with the flower from Denji. I know that's not... She isn't in this look when she gets the flower, but I feel like it could have been included as a nice little inclusion. She could have come with a extra neck for the when she throws her head, so that you could have like a decapitated neck for her. She could come with at least those 2 things, and I feel like it would have been a little bit more worth it. I get that she's going to be a little bit of a lighter release, but at that point they should have probably also decreased the price. Whatever. I've seen a lot of people say that this should have been like a 2-in-1 where you can swap her into Bomb Girl, but I feel like that would have been really expensive because you'd essentially be swapping out the top half of the figure in its entirety, which sounds like a lot, but you do what you do. It's expensive, but it's very much a figure that I'm getting for completion's sake, and because I like Reze as a character. Let's take a look at the figure itself to see if it can make up the rest of the price point. No plastic covers, interestingly. Okay. And to be fair, I do think she looks really nice. I think she looks ripped straight out of the manga and the film. She looks perfect, to be honest. Reze was one of those characters that I was waiting for in the lineup, just because I like her arc a lot. I read the manga before the anime came out, so I'm very much manga-brained for Chainsaw Man. But Reze was one of those characters that I just really wanted a version of, as well as her transformed form, but that's spoilers. But yeah, taking a look at her, she feels fairly right proportion-wise. Obviously, there's been a lot of female characters in this lineup, so it's nice to have another one. And I think this makes sense. This looks about right. Obviously, the shoulders have a little bit of cutting thanks to the articulation, which makes her look a little awkward, but I think she overall does look pretty good, though she is very small. I'm going to put her next to Andor so that you can get a decent look. Obviously, it makes sense for her to be small. She's like a teenager. And honestly, some of these other lines have been oversizing their teenage characters, if I'm going to be honest. I feel like I'm going to bring over Mjorne, the figure I standard. So you can see she's like a little small proportionally, obviously, but she's not the worst thing in the world. She'll fit in fine with the other figures. Obviously, she'll fit in perfectly with the other Chainsaw Man figures, which from what I can tell tend to scale smaller. From what I can tell, I own all of them. They do tend to scale smaller. But yeah, let's take a closer look at her so that you can get a decent look at her details. She has that sort of smile on her faceplate at its base, which again does look very good. It blends very well with the hair sculpt, and I think it is the best looking printed face that the Chainsaw Man line has done to date. To me, again, that's not saying much. The faceplates have been the worst part of the lineup. But Reze at least has ones that are very fitting for her, which I think is a good thing because I like her a lot. And her hair sculpt is also really good. There's a little bit of flash on it at points, and maybe an extra wash would have been appreciated, but especially given the price. But I do think it fits the way that she's supposed to look very well. It's got the nice little knot here at the back, which is very well sculpted. And of course, this front bangs part is also very well done. And there is some very nice intricate paint at her neck. It looks very clean to my eye. There's probably a little bit of paint slop that, like, you can notice if you get really microscopic with it, but to my eye, it looks very well painted. The choker, and you've got the little removable pin there at the side, which again, you got to use the spudger for. But yeah, the shirt is fairly basic. Maybe an extra little bit of a wash would have been nice, though. I'm not someone who needs a wash on every figure I own, especially for anime characters. I think a wash can just make them look a little dirty, which works for Denji, to be fair. Denji had a wash. It makes sense for him, because he is a guy who I do not imagine washes his clothes very often. But yeah, the folds in her shirt are very nice, though. I do like the way that it wrinkles, and I feel like it fits very naturally, even with the articulation points. The shoulders are as nice as they can be. Obviously, there is the sculpting for where the butterfly goes and whatnot, and where like the shoulder goes, which looks a little awkward, but it works fine. The arms go down fairly standardly into your usual jointing systems. The hands are fairly basic. There's a little bit of extra flash between those fingers, which I'm not super fond of, but I get it. It's small. The pants, I do like the contrast and like slight contrast in textures between the skin and like the stockings and like the other pieces of clothing. I think it is very nicely done. The pants are pretty perfect, or like shorts or whatever. They have that nice belt sculpting. They have the nice wrinkles, the pockets. Everything looks good. And they did hide the articulation point very nicely within the shorts, which I appreciate. The stockings look nice, though fairly plain, and the shoes have a nice gloss to them, and some very nice sculpting as well. Again, she's a fairly basic figure, so there's not a lot to go over despite her high price tag. I could get like Usopp for this price. I think is like the main thing that like you're coming up against, but I've got to go over the articulation. I got to go over the articulation before I do final thoughts. So yeah, she looks accurate. She looks good. I like her look a lot, which is going to be how she displays on the shelf at least, so that's good. But yeah, let's take a look at our articulation. So we've got a double ball joint that there is a collar that's going to limit it, and of course the little the pin is going to limit it that way, but and the hair is going to limit it backwards. So she gets up a little bit, a decent amount. It would have been nice if the hair was on a bit of a ball joint. Down fairly far. Tilt side this way, pretty good. This side even better. So I think it's nice and expressive though. So it'll get what you need, given who she is. So butterfly, let's check it. Not really a ton, unfortunately, but enough probably. Like you can see it kind of going out there, but that's more of a shoulder cap. And like obviously her chest gets in the way a little bit, and like it can go back a little bit as well if she needs to stretch backward, which is nice. Shoulder obviously goes all the way around. I think it's a little bit hard to get it all the way around, just because of the way that this sort of double hinge ball joint sort of system works. It's small and complicated, which I guess is where some of the budget is going in. It's very small and very highly engineered. And then upward goes into about a T, but not much further. There is a bicep swivel. It's a little bit hidden and doesn't get all the way, but and you get a little bit more going outward, but it is hidden right there. You do thankfully get a double jointed elbow, which goes basically all the way in, which I really appreciate. And the hand is your standard swivel hinge swivel, as you'd expect. Be careful with it as to not break it. Ball joint here at the top is able to arc back fairly decently, arc forward pretty all right, and arc side to side really well. There's also a lower ball joint, which is limited by the folds, not able to go super far forward. Goes a decent amount backward, and has a little bit of tilt side to side, and I think you can also swivel there, so that's nice. So, yeah, this is like the full crunch you get, the full arc back that you get. It gets a little gappy, but that's okay. Then the legs are able to kick forward pretty decently. They do tilt outward a little bit, thanks to the sculpt, but you can correct that with the thigh swivel. Kicks backward, pretty alright, and then kicks outward. Could be better. I think it's using somewhat of a similar system. That's about as far as you get, which I remember seeing worse in reviews. She's able to kick outward fine. This is not amazing, certainly. There's a lot of complex hinging in there to get it to go further, but it's nowhere near as bad as like Makima. This is perfectly reasonable. Obviously the thigh swivel, which is really well hidden by the pants, I already mentioned that. Single jointed knee, unfortunately, but it gets you far enough. Then you have a swivel hinge tilt at the ankle. The tilt, let's try to get that moving independently. The tilt goes in amazingly because it's essentially just a forward tilt, which you would expect. You kind of got to work with it, but it's there. And of course, you get a toe bend. So, yeah, I think her weakest point is unfortunately her torso. It's very much limited, and I think the particular way that it bunches into the pants does limit it a lot. But she does seem better articulated than I remember a lot of reviews making it seem. At least from what few reviews I saw, I didn't see a ton of reviews for her, but I remember those like showing the legs being the hips specifically being way more limited. But yeah, from what I can tell, this figure is pretty good articulation wise. Not amazing, but the double jointed elbows certainly do help, and she's able to get into a lot of expressive poses, all things considered. However, she still probably isn't worth retail price. Obviously, this is an $80 figure, and at this current point in the recording, I've only been here for about 17 minutes, which is not a good sign when other figures go a lot longer. Again, Usopp has way more accessories, and while I don't think Reze has a ton of accessory potential, given the small amount of screen time and the fact that we aren't doing Bomb Girl with her, I think some more accessories would have been nice. Like a nice like explosion effect to pop as like an alternate head for her like, blowing her head up. Would have been like a very nice effect. Again, the flower. Again, the like, and maybe an extra neck part to recreate the scene where she's like throwing her head or whatever. Yeah, there's just a lot that this figure could have done that it unfortunately does not, which means it doesn't really justify its price. But do I regret owning this figure? Not particularly, just mainly because I am a Chainsaw Man completionist, and I do like Reze as a character, and I think it does a decent job of getting Reze there, all things considered. I just don't think that you, as a viewer, should probably buy this immediately. Wait until it gets, like, a price drop. Wait till it goes on sale on, like, Amazon or Big Bad Toy Store or whatever works. Just keep an eye out for sales on this figure, because it is not worth retail price. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like on the video so that I know I should make more like this. Leave a comment, leaving whatever thoughts you may have. Go check out the channel for previous videos. I've covered every other Chainsaw Man Figuarts figure up to this point, so you can choose any of those, and be sure to subscribe for future videos. Obviously, there's another Reze coming, so we'll get there when we get there. And until next time, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you around. Bye-bye!